listen to the Token and Hobbs Show on the Roads to Liberty Network.
That's right. We are back. I am Token. He is Hobbs. Welcome to another episode of the Token and Hobbs Show on the Think Liberty Network. How are you doing, Mr. Congressman? Tell me, how is living in D.C. going for you?
Oh, we're getting lots of work done up on the Hill. You know, lots of things are coming down the pipe, although I don't think that it's going to get through the Democrat-controlled House or Senate or even on Joe Biden's desk, assuming he can still read. But man, we're putting in the work covers everywhere.
What should I be looking forward to the most, do you think?
We're going to be clarifying that when the NFA went into law, the $200 registration tax, it's actually a down payment on a military issue weapon. It's not a registration tax.
Oh,
a
military issued weapon. So you're telling me this thing is old, it is dirty, and it will fall apart quite easily, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, but it's got a giggle switch.
Okay. Well, you know, there's pluses and minuses to everything. So I guess, you know, it's a down payment towards a gun, right? That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And then we've you know, in the spirit of one of the great lovers of liberty on you know, the public mind, we have drafted a mandatory toothbrushing bill. Now, I don't expect it to go very far. And I know it's a bit statisty to mandate things, but you know it's one of those banner lit.
Well, I mean, even the great Murray Rothbard said that each libertarian is allowed to have one unlibertarian position, and if yours is mandatory teeth brushing, you know, who's against brushing teeth? Not me. So you know, let's go for it. Right. Now, so long as the punishment for not brushing your teeth isn't too severe, I figure no more than 6 months in prison would be appropriate.
I said 6 months in prison or 3 months of hard labor in a chain gang. So whatever your body can take.
In a chain gang, yes, we need to work out some people so they're less susceptible to COVID. This is a good way to bring down the COVID death numbers. Just
Correct.
Forceful exercise for those who don't brush their teeth.
Right. And it also answers that question: without government, who will build the roads? Forced labor by people with nasty mouths.
Yes, and I assume that this is going to be the prelude to the free pony plan that's coming out later, probably next year.
Well, currently with the state of the economy and food and gas prices being what they are, we kind of figured that Ponynomics was at current time a bit unfeasible. If we could recall some of the extant currency, bring the inflation level down a little bit, and then we could maybe get people their equity issued out in exchange for dollars. But
I figured with all this forced labor from individuals who are going to be working your chain gangs, then that you could put them to work on breeding ponies. Maybe that's a plan to make this a reality.
We'll just have to see how many people want to have yuck mouth.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. So yeah. You were just mentioning prices going up on commodities these days, and this seems to be a common theme going around these days. It seems as though economics are finally starting to catch up with this country. Who would have thought that would have ever happened? You know, the laws of economics catching up with the irresponsibility of government. So yeah, it looks like that's going up. Prices on all kinds of commodities are going up all over the country, and Democrats seem completely baffled as to why this might be. It seems like the going theory is that businesses are just greedy, and they just all decided to be greedy at the same time. simultaneously. So that's very shitty of them if that's the case.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing that when you pump a bunch of free money into the money supply by paying people to not go to work and make things with which they could spend that money on, magically you have inflation meets scarcity and prices go up.
Yeah. See, this is the problem that we face when talking about economics in this country to those who've never cracked open an economics textbook and never bothered to read anything on the subject, to listen to any podcasts on the subject, or do anything but listen to politicians who share their positions, right? Is they don't understand what an economy is, what it does, and what it's meant to do, right? They hear economy, and what's the first thing that goes into their head? Money. Economy is just money. That's what an economy is. So when prices go up, it has nothing to do with supply and demand, it's shortages and surpluses, nothing to do with anything like that. When prices go up to people, they just think, oh, well, that's obviously because the greedy businessman is just raising his prices arbitrarily for no good reason, and that's what's causing the prices to go up. Of course, that's not the case of all, and we've been seeing this for a very long time, but especially over the last year, government just spending wildly while simultaneously the Federal Reserve pumps new dollars into the economy in order to keep interest rates low so that the federal government can continue bringing on new debt. Right?
Yeah.
This has been going on for years, but especially now, especially over the last year. How many gigantic spending bills did we have in the last year and a half? 3, 4, something like that. They just keep piling on top of each other. While at the same time, in order to fight this global pandemic that is the most deadly pandemic in the history of mankind, ooh, no. In order to fight this thing, we've been encouraging people over the last year to stay home, to not work, to not go outside, to not be productive. And we've been rewarding them for doing that by giving them free money all the time. Like not just the checks that have been going out in the mail to everybody in this country, but the unemployment benefits that have been going out to everybody that lost their job and haven't gone back to the workforce since. Not only that, but being paid extra on top of that, to the point where they make more money unemployed than they would be employed, meaning that they do not choose to go back into the workforce. And what does that do? When people don't go back into the workforce, you have a deficit of goods. You have scarcity. That's the word I'm looking for. You have increased artificial scarcity created by the government, while at the same time you have monetary inflation due to government spending and Federal Reserve policy. This is a recipe for economic catastrophe, and Democrats in charge seem to be completely baffled as to how this might be. It seems to me like they've never read about the Weimar Republic or the Great Depression. They don't know what happened in Venezuela just a few years ago, or Zimbabwe, or any number of places that had monetary inflation. Now, the difference is none of those places had the government paying its workforce not to produce. Right? I don't think that's ever happened before. I can't think of a single example where you had both those things happening at the same time.
Yeah, and another big deal, a big problem with the situation right now is so many people out there, they hear the words the economy, and their idea of what the economy is this big pile of money with money going in and going out, and it all belongs to and is controlled by the government. That's their idea of what the economy is. And I have seen so many people that I know that I am wholly embarrassed. They are smarter than this. I know. And if any of you guys are watching right now, I know that you're smarter than this. Posting shit up like, oh, you can't find a worker. Maybe that's because you're not paying them a living wage. It's like, and then I saw one the other day where it was like an In-N-Out burger or something where it's like, we're now hiring first shift like $17.50 an hour. And they're like, oh, I thought we were told that the In-N-Out burger was going to $17 if we paid workers a living wage. And it's like, you guys do realize that costs and wages differ in different parts of the country, right? That particular In-N-Out burger has its prices for its products policy. Its wages, however, are set by whatever that area and the business of that particular franchise can handle. Now, if you're in, downtown Los Angeles and you're serving 100 people every hour or something, yeah, you can afford to pay a burger flipper $17.50 an hour. If you're out here in the sticks in Nebraska and you get maybe 5 or 6 customers a day, then you're not going to be able to pay $17, $18 an hour. That's how it works. And these people are pushing for a national minimum wage increase to $15 an hour. And what's going to happen is that all of those burger flippers in middle of nowhere places like where I live that are making $7.50, $8 an hour now, instead of making $15 an hour after a national minimum wage hike, they're going to make $0 because the company that they work for is not going to be able to afford that overhead. And any of these people out there calling for these minimum wage hikes and using examples of some jam-packed downtown Los Angeles In-N-Out burger, and they're like this, these starting burger flippers are making more than I do right now with an associate's degree and a high skill level job. They can afford it. You can't hear. And using that as an example to try and push for national policy that's going to drive mom shops out of business. It's going to drive smaller franchise chains out of business. You're going to see more unemployment, more people on the government, people making things, higher prices due to scarcity, and you're all going to wonder what the hell happened, and you're going to blame it on the greedy business owners.
It's all the capitalist fault.
You guys don't understand how overhead works. It's not enough that burger flipper has to sell $15.01 an hour worth of product in order to justify his own paycheck, in order to keep the place in business. But that doesn't take into account things like restocking the raw materials that it takes to actually make the burgers, the electricity to keep the lights on, the electricity to keep the freezers running, all of the other ancillary things like the sewage to keep the water and the bathrooms going, all of the cleaning supplies, all that other stuff. It's overhead.
And all the various taxes and fees that you got to pay to the government in order to keep your business open, right? But the answer you'll always get to that, and it's the most annoying thing I ever hear, is if you can't afford to pay X, Y, and Z wage, you don't deserve to be in business, right? I'm sure you've heard that response.
Oh, yeah.
That I'd say you're fucking retarded if you say that. Like, I don't have any respect whatsoever for anybody that tries to bring up that argument. It's retarded, and you're retarded for bringing that up. Like, you're honest to God telling me that it's better for a worker to make nothing because the business doesn't exist than to make less than what you arbitrarily decided they need to make. Like, that's your honest to God answer. And if your response is, well, that's okay, they'll go on welfare, they'll make unemployment, you are just adding to the economic crisis that is coming in this country due to your bad economic philosophy, or not even economic philosophy, your lack thereof. Because you can't even call it a philosophy when your entire thought process when it comes to economics is just money, money, money. Like, that's all it is. Like, money is just a means of exchange. It is a tool. It is not the end all be all. The end all be all are the goods and services that you have access to. That's what an economy is actually all about. Money doesn't mean jack shit if you don't have those, right? It doesn't mean anything. Say you have $1 billion in your bank account and you go to Walmart and there's nothing on the shelves, right? You get on Amazon and there's nothing to buy. How much good does that money do you then, right? It's paper, right? It's just numbers on a screen. That's all money is, right? And so long as there are goods and services available to purchase in exchange for that money, then that money is serving a purpose, right? As a means of exchange. I do labor. I perform a service, right, for the betterment of a portion of society. And in exchange for that, I am given a token, right? I'm given a token that I can use in exchange for somebody else's labor, right? For the products that they produce. And we use money as a form of exchange so that I don't have to barter with every single person I want to purchase from, right? I can just have a single token of exchange that I can give to them and they can give to whoever else they want to, right? Money just facilitates economic activity. It is not the purpose of economic activity, right?
Right.
So all this talk about, oh yeah, if you can't afford to pay someone what I think you should, you deserve to go out of business. It's nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. Adam here says Democrats blame the problem that parents cannot go back to work due to childcare. Well, I mean, let's expand that a little bit. They also can't go to work because schools are still closed in many parts of this country. But who closed the schools? Right? Why aren't they open anymore? Why can't parents send their kids to school? It's because the government has decided that they need to be shut down, right? And in a lot of parts of this country, there is no consistent schooling going on. Teachers unions are still pushing the CDC to keep schools closed, and the follow the science CDC that we're all supposed to listen to, right? Otherwise, you're a crazy kook. Right? If you don't follow CDC guidelines, the CDC, instead of going by the science and creating standards based on what the science actually dictates, they are bowing to the concerns of the teachers' unions because the teachers' unions don't want to go back to work. They want to continue getting paychecks working from home. Meanwhile, parents have to stay at home with their children because they can't send them to school because there is no school. So that's another reason people can't go back to work. There's many reasons people can't go back to work. Continued government shutdowns in parts of this country, continued school closures in parts of this country, and the government continued to paying people to sit at home and not go to work. Three huge reasons why there is a labor shortage in this country and the supply of commodities is decreasing and prices are starting to go up. And again,
Nope. Hey. Can't hear you. Oh boy. Nope. Nope. Guys, I don't know.
There you are. Here I am.
All right, there.
I'm sorry. My bad. The wire came out of my microphone and I had to reset my settings.
Yeah, you need to chill out a little bit and not get so animated and get a better mic down the line.
I pulled the wire out of it and I just went out.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So Adam kind of he expanded on that first one. He said that the Democrats blame the problem that the parents can't go back to work, and yet another government program for universal child care is the answer. And yeah, that's what they will propose if they haven't proposed it already. Is we got to get these parents back to work. Child care is the answer. It's like, no, I've got a much better idea than that. How about the government stops taking so much of our goddamn money, and a parent can stay home full time, rather than almost necessarily having two people in a household working ends meet for a nuclear family. It would be so much easier if one parent could watch the kids all day long, and the other parent, me and my wife, we make that work, but barely.
See, here's what the problem with that is if we had one parent working and one parent staying at home, like, for the vast majority of human history, the majority of people who would be staying home would be the moms.
Yes.
Right? Because that's how it is, right? Even in the most industrialized Western countries in the world, right, where you can have either the man or the woman go to work or the other stay home. Most of the time, it's going to be the mothers who stay home with their children. And what's going to happen then? Right? If women start leaving the workplace and working at home, oh no, the gender pay gap. Oh no, women aren't going to their corporate jobs and they're staying with their kids instead. That's no good.
That is putting the cart before the horse. After World War II, when we sent a whole bunch of men off to fight and die in Europe and the Pacific, and a bunch of women back in the US picked up the slack by working in factories, when all of the men came home, the government figured out pretty quick that there's a whole 50% of the population that could be working and could be getting taxed. That's where the whole women's lib movement came from. It wasn't some organic thing about women's equality. It was never female empowerment or anything like that. It was an insidious, diabolical plan by the to get the other half of the country into the workforce so they could be taxed by the, at that point, fairly brand new income tax. So then now we've got to do, what do we do with kids? Well, for those women who can't or don't want to go into the workforce, well, they can become daycare workers. They can start earning a paycheck and they can be taxed too. That's all it was. So we got played.
Everyone gets played, right? Everyone gets played, and that's the way it is. And on top of that, it's not even enough, right? For as much as they tax us, they still, on top of that, have to borrow billions of dollars and print billions of dollars and just keep doing that on and on forever until we're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. And we have an inflating currency where the value of the dollar in your wallet constantly goes down due to increasing prices, right? It's this really diabolical scheme that the government has going where they inflate the currency, devalue money, and de-incentivize savings so that everybody puts all their money into the stock market so that they can hope to recoup something so they can retire off of it. Because Lord knows you can't just put money into a savings account, right? Because that money's going to be worthless by the time you're 60, right? It's not going to be there. You're going to take it out and good job. You're going to be able to buy yourself a brand new PlayStation, but that's about it with the value that money has at that point. Right. Yep. And we pretend as though this is good and normal, as though inflation is just just a thing that happens and we need to accept it and it's fine. Like, I remember growing up, one of the only lessons that I ever had about economics was that inflation was the normal thing. And we always needed at least 2 to 3% inflation every year. And it was fine and dandy. But, that's a lesson you get taught as a kid in this country, that inflation is just a normal thing. And don't you ever question our overlords over at the Federal Reserve who are using this in order to control the economy and to control you and to dictate behavior of their citizens, right?
Yeah, imagine that. The government schools teaching you that shitty government policy is completely normal.
Economics is the end-all, be-all of everything. Economics is what really truly matters. And it amazes me that there's so many people with no understanding of economics who always want to meddle in it and try to control things, right? It's like they don't understand. They don't understand at all. Like you talk to a lot of these wokesters with their woke ideology. They don't seem to understand that the very basis upon which their ideology relies is a strong economy, because nobody gives a shit about your pronouns if they can't feed their family. Nobody gives a shit about, oh, you identify as a Zer or some bullshit like that. Oh, you identify as a non-binary pansexual, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. But I just lost my job and I'm homeless. So I can't be bothered to give a shit about your stupid pronoun games while I'm dealing with real problems here. So the entire basis upon which this woke culture relies is a base level of prosperity, without which none of that shit matters. But you're underlying that base level of prosperity. You're underlying the very basis upon which your ideology relies. It's going to bite you in the ass. It's going to bite all of us in the ass. But at least me and Hobbs here are going to know what's going on as the Titanic sinks. You guys are just going to be blissfully unaware of anything until you're underwater drowning. And you're going to be blaming us, the capitalists, the people that warned you about this, as you go down. And I'm looking forward to it.
I'll make room on the piece of floating wood for you. I won't pull a rose and let you sink, Jack.
All right, we can. Congressman Hobbs here is going to scoot over on his giant floating door, and we'll both survive. So
that's right.
So that's the thing. I mean, this is all on the heels of a job report that came out this last week, where they were projecting that we were going to add like 900,000 jobs to the economy. Right? We were going to add 900,000 jobs. That's a huge number. But you know what? It would be somewhat justified, seeing as how the economic downturn that we had was somewhat artificial, right? Because we had a nice economy. I mean, the economy is always, kind of resting on a house of cards. But, it hadn't fallen yet. It was in a good spot. It was not in a terrible spot. Now, there's always going to be a dip. There's always going to be a recession because of Federal Reserve policy. But at the time, it was looking pretty good. And then COVID hit and it nosedived, right? As you with all the policies that they were enacting across this country, you would expect that. But with that, you would expect jobs to go right back up when COVID started, receding, which it's been doing for forever now. So you would expect jobs to tick back up and zoom back up to where things were before. But instead, we added around 200,000 jobs instead of the 900,000 that were projected. And Joe Biden decided to go on TV and be like, no, this is a good sign. This is a good sign that the economy is going in the direction that we want it to. And I'm like, Joe, you really are that stupid, aren't you? Like, you really think that this is a good sign? Is it? I mean, I don't know if he actually believes that, or he's just putting a good face on an obviously terrible situation. But come on, dude, we can see right through that bullshit. This is not good in any way, shape, or form. And the reason for all this is for the reasons that we've outlined earlier, right? There's multiple reasons for it, but the main reason is government intervention. That is the reason the economy is in the shitter, continues to go down the shitter, and why you see prices going up all over the country. It's not because of greedy businessmen. It's because of people like Joe Biden, people like Kamala Harris, people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and even Donald Trump previously. I mean, Donald Trump was not shy about signing trillion-dollar bills into law last year. Let's not pretend that Republicans are blameless in all this. Right, he's been inflated. He's been pumping money into the economy himself for a very long time. But yeah, Joe Biden seems intent on outspending Donald Trump, and we're seeing the effects of all these trillions of dollars on the economy right now. How are you going to stop them, Congressman?
I don't know. I am only one man, although Zigzag Chapman down here seems to have a good idea. Just fire 2 blasts into the and scare the government away. I don't know. I think they'd Waco your ass pretty quick if you tried to do that. But yeah, speaking of the kind of adding to a problem. I'm sure by now everybody knows about the Colonial Pipeline, which was shut down on the East Coast due to a ransomware attack. Have you heard about this?
The what now?
Well, apparently, an oil and gas pipeline on the East Coast, which takes fuel and gas and everything from Texas all the way up along the East Coast to New York Harbor, was hit by a ransomware attack by a hacker collective called DarkSide, supposedly, allegedly out of Russia. And yeah, I know the Russians are at it again. Apparently.
The Russians. It's just a stereotype at this point. I get a new villain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are well past time to move on to a different era of villains. Like it was German villains at one point, Russian villains, then it was Islamic villains. I think it's about time we move on to Chinese villains. Call me crazy. Yeah. We need a new ethnicity of villains.
Right. Well, anyways, this pipeline got hit, and it's caused all along the East Coast. Zigzag says the gas stations ran out of fuel in Knoxville today, partially because the fuel supply was off due to the pipeline being shut down, but mostly because we're seeing toilet paper 2.0, where people got into a panic and went out and kind of self-fulfilled. So in a press conference today, the wonderful press secretary Circleback Saki was asked what the government's response was going to be to this, and my jaw hit the floor when this press secretary of a Democrat administration said that Colonial Pipeline was a private entity and the government was going to take a hands-off approach to see what they did. Since when has that ever been something that the government in general, but Democrats in particular, have had an issue with getting involved in the private sector? And then later,
I don't think I've ever heard that given as an answer before.
Yeah, it seemed fishy to me, to say the least. And then later on today, I was listening and reading my podcasts and my news sources, and I forget who it was, but somebody brought up that that allowing this to happen is the perfect excuse to nationalize the petroleum industry. And do not be surprised if in the next few days people are hurting for fuel along the East Coast. If Colonial doesn't get, whatever it is, to get their shit together, or pay these people off, or break through the attack, or whatever, do not some big brain government think tank floats the wonderful idea to nationalize the petroleum industry. Bank on it.
I bet you that's coming, but I also look out for government using this as an excuse to ramp up tensions with Russia. Also look for that. Look for that double whammy, right? Because what is the best way to distract people from an economic crisis?
War.
Exactly. Distract them with an international crisis, right? Distract them from what really matters, your livelihood, your ability to house and feed your family, right? Your ability to prosper materially. Distract you from that, the really important issues of life, and get you laser focused on Russians. Right? That is what this do. And Biden might even be stupid enough to be of the opinion that war solves economic crises. Like, oh yeah, you want to boost the economy, go to war. That's a good way to help things. Like there's people who actually think that, and it annoys me to no end to hear people say, "Oh, World War II got us out of the Great Depression." Oh,
World War II got us out of depression. because everywhere else in the world was a smoking pile of rubble, and people around the world had no other choice but to do business with America. That's why we had a manufacturing boom. We entered the war late, and we had absolutely no attacks on our soil or manufacturing infrastructure. Pearl Harbor was the only thing that even came close, and that was an attack on a military base. Russia was in ruins. Western Europe in ruins. Japan was radioactive. China was a rural backwater. South America was a rural backwater. Canada was still large resources was the majority of their economy. Who did everybody have to do business with after World War II? The United States of America. And that's why the 50s were so booming. It wasn't because of government policy. It wasn't because the war brought us out of the Great Depression. It's because we were the only place in town to do business.
See,
so in a way, yeah, if you want to level the rest of the world, go right ahead.
See, this is another economic fallacy that really annoys me when people hyper focus on statistics in order to say that some economy is booming. Like when you say that World War II brought us out of the Great Depression, what you're really saying is unemployment was low and GDP was high. Right? That's what you're really saying. Like, oh yeah, look at all this production that's going on. Surely the economy's recovered. Look at all the unemployment seems to have just magically disappeared. Obviously, the economy's doing well. When you really look at things like, oh, unemployment's gone because everyone's overseas killing each other. That's not exactly indicative of a booming economy. Oh, look at all this production. Yeah, what are they producing? Bullets, bombs, airplanes, tanks, battleships, not exactly consumer goods, right? Nothing that anybody would ever want except for bullets, of course. And the rest.
I beg to differ, sir. Tanks and airplanes, bullets and bombs are consumer goods in my America.
Okay, but you wouldn't actually be able to afford any of them, right?
Economies of scale. I dream of the 299 500-pound aircraft bomb.
I mean, I can see like an eccentric billionaire buying like one battleship and just kind of like hanging out in it and sailing it around for shits and giggles. But you know, we built dozens of those things during World War II. I don't think there's enough eccentric billionaires to justify a booming economy in battleships for recreational use. As fun as that may be, I think I would rather have a few thousand automobiles built with those materials as opposed to a fucking battleship. You know, but that's just the thing. When you're in wartime, you're producing goods that aren't of any economic value to anyone. I mean, as fun as it is to fantasize about me and Hobbs each owning a tank and driving down the plains of Nebraska, shooting at each other while drunk. It's fun of a fantasy that is. I don't think there's any economic condition to make that an actual realistic thing, right? But that's the thing about it. War does not produce anything that people actually want. It produces weapons of destruction. It produces goods whose only purpose is killing people. And people don't normally want to be killing people. That's not something people want to be doing, right? People want to have consumer goods that make their lives better, and owning a fleet of B-17s might sound fun, but it's probably not going to make your life all that much better.
Who is going to say otherwise? I have a fleet of B-17s.
Like, yeah, fuckers. Well, I'm telling you, if the Branch Covidians had a fleet of B-17s, the ATF probably wouldn't have fucked with them the way that they did.
No, definitely not. So you want to end on kind of a funny note? That article that I sent to the group chat before we started?
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Did you see the CIA's diversity video?
Oh God, yeah, that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about. Yeah,
I got it right here for us to enjoy. And it's a
get the key, bro.
doozy. It's about 2.5 minutes long, but I think it's fun enough to justify us listening to it. Oh no, well, where'd it go? There it is. All right, let's take a listen to this.
When I was 17, I quoted Zora Neale Hurston's How It Feels to Be Colored Me in my college application essay.
Ooh, very impressive.
The line that spoke to me stated simply, I am not tragically colored. There is no sorrow dammed up in my soul nor lurking behind my eyes. I do not mind at all. At 17, I had no idea what life would bring, but Zora's sentiment articulated so beautifully how I felt as a daughter of immigrants then and now.
Now, let me stop you right there. If you didn't know what this was, what would you think it is?
I would think that this is probably some type of inclusivity training seminar video for some stupid college.
I would say it's like this is something that Vox or BuzzFeed put out there.
Or Now
Right?
This. Yeah, it's like
Or
a Now
Now
This
This.
video.
Right. It's one of those things, just one of those fluff pieces that these progressive websites put out there just to get people raging at them on YouTube, right? Like we're doing.
Yeah, they find the exception to the rule and then pump it up to make it seem like it's the rule.
All right, let's keep
Nothing
listening.
is tragic. I am perfectly made. I can wax eloquent on complex legal issues in English while also belting Guayaquil de mis amores in Spanish.
So, is that supposed to be impressive? Like, oh wow, it's amazing. You moved to America from a Spanish-speaking country and learned English. Very, very, very. You hear that? That's me golf clapping you. That's very impressive. Like I don't understand what is this is supposed to prove.
I can change a diaper with one hand and console a crying toddler with the other. I'm a woman of...
You cannot change a diaper with one hand. That is impressive. You know what? I will say that is impressive. It takes at least impossible. That is impossible. Sometimes I can't even change a diaper with two hands because my daughter likes to reach down if I don't hold her hands down and like put her hands in the poop. Sometimes two hands isn't even enough. So I gotta like hold her hands up to keep her from reaching down there while I'm trying to change her diaper. It's really gross. So if you can do all that with one hand, good on you. That is actually kind of impressive.
Color. I'm a woman of color. I am a mom. I'm a woman of color. I am a mom. I am a cisgender millennial who's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I am intersectional, but my...
Yeah, she's diagnosed with anxiety disorder, but apparently has no problem showing up on YouTube channels all across the country so people like me and Hobbs can make fun of the videos that she's in. I bet this isn't helping that anxiety. I'm just saying.
Yeah, consequently, her anxiety is going to get a lot worse, assuming that it's real.
It's not real. What are you talking about? She works at the CIA.
My existence is not a box-checking exercise. I am a...
Wait a minute, not a box-checking exercise. What were you just doing? I am a
the intersectional box.
I am a this. I am a that. I'm a this, a that, a that, a this, and I do not check boxes. Like, oh my God, lady. The irony. See, here's the funny thing about this. Isn't her. None of this is her. Some CIA quack over there is making this and being like, we really need to reform our image. You know, we're the torture guys. We don't like being known as the torture guys anymore. How do we reframe ourselves? How do we throw the left off our scent? I know. Intersectionality. That's what we'll do. Hey, guys, you can't criticize the CIA anymore because we're very woke now. So don't worry about all that torture. Don't worry about us lying you into wars. Don't worry about black sites. Don't worry about, well, I don't know, spying on our own citizens. and launching drone bombs on people in the Middle East. Don't worry about any of the evil shit that we do. We're intersectional now. Look at this cisgendered millennial woman of color with anxiety disorder that works for us. Focus on that. That's what's important here. Ignore those screams coming from behind that door. That's not important. No, we're not the torture guys. We're the sectionality guys. So
that's what the I in CIA stands for, is intersectionality.
Yeah. It's oh my goodness. I wonder if they actually I wonder how much something like this actually works on the left, because it seems to me that if you fall for this kind of bullshit, my God, take that person's vote. Please don't let them speak. I'm that's it. No longer a libertarian. I no longer believe in the free speech of people who fall for propaganda videos like this. And the CIA would not make this propaganda video if they didn't think it was going to work on somebody, right?
Right.
They got a lot of smart people at the CIA, right? Not a whole lot of ethical people, but very smart people work at the CIA. So they think this works. They think this video, this blatant propaganda, is working on you. Maybe not you, but somebody Somebody's going to watch this and be like, you know what? CIA, they're pretty woke. That's pretty cool. I'm down with the CIA now. Good for the CIA. Meanwhile, we're screaming, no! These are the torture people. These are the people that lie us into war. These are the people who launch drone strikes on innocent civilians in Afghanistan. You guys, you wokesters, you're supposed to be against the CIA.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be your thing.
Yeah. I want to imagine that there's some recent college grad who is in a position that they're not qualified for but snuck in, and they're looking at this and going like, yeah, this is a good ad campaign. Is the people that are in charge of the CIA, the FBI, various departments, black organizations behind and everything. These are the deep state, what we traditionally kind of umbrella term as the deep state. These are the people that want to see this country burn. And this ad campaign and stuff like it is all a part of that classic thing that Yuri Bezmenov talked about, demoralization. They put crap like this out with a sincere face to make people like you and me and people who think like us despair that all is lost. The Central Intelligence Agency, the spooks, the people who are behind the scenes, pulling strings, assassinating world leaders, doing James Bond type shit, are in the woke arena now. They're not really. We know. No. I know that. You know that. They're not. This ad campaign is 100% fabricated bullshit to make people think that their country is lost. That's what this is. They're not trying to recruit people like the, what did Zigzag say? The purple-haired schizophrenic gender studies grad in a wheelchair. They're not trying to recruit people like that. And they're not trying to appease those types of people who used to, say that the CIA is the devil incarnate. They're trying to make patriotic Americans despair. It's a demoralization tactic, and unfortunately, I think it's working.
I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's meant to make patriotic Americans think despair, or if it's meant to throw the left off their scent.
Both.
Maybe a bit of both. I mean, there's no reason why it has to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. It's not like the CIA hires like a McDonald's does. Like, oh yeah, we don't have enough people at the CIA. We're going to put out an ad on the TV and hope people apply on fill out an application online. Is that how the CIA operates? Is that how you get a
No.
job at the spook agency?
No,
I don't think it is.
maybe that's how they get janitors and low-level like office lurkers or
Yeah.
whatever. But when
Guy
it
that
comes
washes
to
the
doing,
windows.
yeah, but when it comes to real like pipe hitter James Bond shit that they need to do, they don't have an application process. They seek you out.
Right. I mean, if they have an application for the guy that cleans off the blood off the torture chamber, that guy needs to apply for the job. But the guy doing the torturing, they sought him out. You know, they went over to your high school science lab and saw the kid in the corner who was gleefully sticking needles into that poor frog, and like, we need that guy. We want that guy for the CIA.
Yeah,
And then
and
and
I'm
the ATF was there too. Like, no, we saw him first. We need that guy.
Yeah, and I'm loving the comments, man. You guys are killing it over here.
Fucking hilarious.
Silence is violence, but civilian drone strikes by intersectional CIA agents with anxiety disorders is moral progress. Exactly.
And
Right.
you'll find that this shit is used as justification for what the CIA already wants to do. Like, you think the CIA wants to leave Afghanistan? You think that's something they want? No. So what do you get? You get articles. I saw this a couple weeks ago in the Lincoln Journal-Star, where they were talking about women in Afghanistan are worried about us withdrawing. So now we got to stay in Afghanistan for feminism. That's the reason we got to stay in there. So we had to go there for national security reasons. We had to prevent the next 9/11. Now here we are in 2021, 20 years later, and we have to stay for feminism. See, this woke shit is very useful to the powers that be in order for them to get what they already wanted.
Yeah,
They'll throw you off the scent.
We came for the sectarian terrorism. We stayed for the cultural terrorism that is intersectional feminism.
Isn't this the perfect microcosm in how conservatives completely lost the culture war? Right? Because back in 2001, if you spoke out against the war on terror and against George Bush, you got canceled. Remember the Dixie Chicks?
Toby Keith would come and kick you in the prostate himself.
Right? I still remember the Dixie Chicks going, "We don't like George Bush." They got canceled for that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That was the culture of 2001. Maybe it wasn't 2001. Maybe it's a little bit 2003.
The Iraq War is what they stood out against.
Right. See, that was the culture back then. Nowadays, if you want to stay in a war, you know, you don't tell people, "Oh, you're un-American, you're unpatriotic, you hate the troops." That's not what you tell people. You tell people that we're going to war for feminism. And that's what that is what you tell them, and opposing that gets you canceled.
Oh, it's just the pendulum is swinging, and it's like it's on methamphetamine. It like goes all the way to one side, and blah blah blah, and then it swings all the way back over to the other side. It's we gotta for feminism, and God, it's like can we just focus on this little bit of geography? What's going on right now?
See, when we launch the nuclear missiles at Russia for World War III, it's going to be to liberate the LGBTQ community of Russia.
Correct. We're going to vaporize them in the process.
We are all going to die in a nuclear hellscape, but at least we would have done it for intersectional reasons.
Right. The mushroom cloud will be rainbow tinted.
I mean, it might be. It might actually be. Not that we'll be alive long enough to actually see it.
Yeah,
you might be. I live right next to Offutt Air Force Base, so I'm going to be vaporized in the first couple seconds. You're the one that's going to be dying of radiation poisoning, not me, because I'll already be dead. Yeah, that's a lovely thought.
Got to stock up on that potassium iodide and make sure my gas masks filters are up to service standard.
All right, just get in a bunker and wait that shit out. Wait out the nuclear winter. I mean, winters in Nebraska are already bad enough. Add a nuclear winter to that. Oh boy, I don't think I even want to be alive at that point. Way too cold. But at least global warming would be solved.
I, for one, welcome the Fallout future.
Yeah, you'll come out and there'll be fucking death claws running around and shit.
That's right. Brotherhood of Steel, baby.
Oh yeah, at least you can join Caesar's Legion. I mean, you put degenerates up on a cross. That sounds pretty nice. Degenerates like you belong on a cross. Like,
why do we have to wait for that though?
Because the government.
All right, I didn't even get to that last story, but I mean,
what was the story? Oh, it was about how let's see, almost half the Army's female soldiers are still failing the new combat fitness test.
Yep, that is
new. What is the new fitness test?
They were beta testing it when I got out, like 2 months before I got out in 2012. We took it. And it's like dead arm hang and a power throw and a shuttle run and a 2-mile run. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a smoker, especially they just cannot fucking get away from that 2-mile run bullshit. But the thing is that it is gender neutral. There is no more different standards for men and women.
That's perfect. That's what I've always wanted.
That's equality right there. The 44% of female troops are failing it.
Oh no, that means it's misogynistic. Obviously,
they're calling it a barrier entry.
But how are trans
equality? This is what equality looks like.
How are trans women doing at the test? That's what I really need to know.
It doesn't matter because they're taking the same test as the cis men and cis women.
I really need to know what this. How about the trans men? How are they faring on the test? Probably as well as the biological women because that's what they are. I'm gonna get in trouble for that. Oh shit! I'm gonna see. I'm already banned from doing live streams on Facebook for the next 90 days. 90 days I can't do a live stream on Facebook. That's why all you guys are watching this on YouTube right now, because I can't fucking live stream to Facebook for 90 days. I am on my third 30-day ban from Facebook this year.
Yes, and due to that, Ben cannot live stream to Facebook, like, because you're an admin of the roads. Yeah, because you're an admin to the roads page. The roads page cannot live stream.
Stupid. So stupid. And our Twitter account is still suspended for no reason. Literally no reason. Literally Twitter taking a comment out of context.
Right. The algorithm thought you were telling somebody that they needed to go die. That's why you need to put die in quotation marks, you know.
Yeah, well. Oh, well.
Punctuation is important.
Who needs social media anyway? It's all a big stupid thing. That's all it is. Anyway, I think we'll wrap up there. Yes. That's all we wanted to say. Welcome the era of inflation. I'm sure we're all going to be talking about this going forward in the future. And as soon as they decide to stop pretending that COVID is going to kill everybody, as soon as that stops, right? But don't worry, we're going to have intersectional people inflating your currency. So won't that make you feel better? All right. Well, that's it for us. Good night, everybody. Remember to go to think-liberty.com for all our episodes, and roads2liberty.com if you want to buy our awesome merchandise. We will see you next week. The next episode.